Okay, so we're going to start the process with the sphere, a very simple sphere. And we're going to go through a couple of steps to just build the face. You might have seen these steps before. They're relatively straightforward, and I demo them every time I do a face. But we start, number one, with a sphere. Number two, we take that sphere, we cut out 1/4 of the back quadrant. That just gets cut out and is gone. That represents the notch for where the mastoid process ends up. Step number three, we then take a little bit of that front part of the face and we just tilt it forward to create the muzzle of the mouth, the whole wedge of the jaw. So at this point, we have ourselves a nice, clear, very simple structure for the face. And it's at that stage that we then go in and we put the measurements that we've already looked at and get very clear about all of the proportional relationships. So first, let's start by looking at a side view. Perspective off. And you may want to turn floor with X on. That makes it very simple to see, well, I only want 1/4 of that back quadrant. Make sure the measurement is right. Err on the side of a little smaller. But use the grid because chances are your eye is going to fool you and you're going to take a different measurement. Okay, grab this front part and whatever you do, make sure you leave a wedge right here. Have to leave a wedge. Control click to invert, rotate, drag it off the model. I always tell people to drag it off the model. And people will always come in and try to drag it right to the very edge. Drag it off the model. If you go to the edge, the risk of making the measurement off or having your axes be wrong is very high and there's no benefit. Drag it off the model. Pull it down. You want to define at this point what is the angle of that wedge of the face. Is somebody going to have a jaw that kind of pulls backwards from their brow? Or is it going to pull forward and the brow is going to be here, the nose, and then on from there? All of those are the measurement or the things that we're thinking about at this point. So I'm going to go relatively straight up and down. Point A, point B, brow, chin. All of this gets cut off. Okay, we're all clear to go. Floor is off. Got some nasty polygons. And to solve it, we simply go to the lowest subdivision level, smooth the heck out of it, come back up to subtool, subpalette, reproject higher subdiv. So again, you want to reproject the higher subdiv. That will even out all of this topology, make things a lot nicer to sculpt. Come into the front view, select the trim front brush and just lop that off. So from a side view, this is totally working. We've got chin, jaw, orbit of the eye, the cheek, the masseter, the nose is going to pull out from there. We'll probably discover that that chin's too far forward or at least I'll discover that and I'll move it back. So keep it fluid. It's not something that's 100%. Okay, we need to adjust the jawline. We want to get this because that represents where the form turns, boom, and then it comes down. So we just want to move that line down and back to form the jaw. Okay, a couple of important points that you need to know about male, female. In a female, the jaw is going to be a little bit softer of a transition. The bone is going to it's going to have less of what's called the angle of the mandible. In a male, this is going to be a larger angle. And it's going to be bulkier. Now that's a given. We all know that when we look at a female with a strong jaw, she looks slightly masculine. So keep that curve in your mind and use an Illustrator trick. Just don't think about the bone yet. Think about the curve. Think about making that a nice, smooth curve. From a front view, we're off quite a bit. We need to adjust this. So what is, and we already went over some measurements, but what is the relationship of the width to the height? If you assume the width is a unit of 1, then the height is a unit of 1, then the width is going to be 0.75. Pretty straightforward. So how do we do that? Drag out our action line, top to bottom and off the model, reposition it, and then drag it back. Okay, notice that our units up here says 2.32. So you can either mentally divide that so that you get 0.75 out of this, but what I'm going to do is a little trick. I'm going to go to transpose units, and I'm going to set this to 2, straight to 2. Why 2? Because then I can drag out from the center and pull back in, and I don't have to do any thinking. I just make the units equal 0.75. So essentially this is 1 unit, 0.75, 1, and 0.75. So we just doubled it, so it made everything easy. Okay, now all I really have to do, move and just move this in, and the action line stays put. So that's really good. In that way, it really serves as a measurement. And remember that high point is going to be here, and then we're going to trim and move in for the wedge of the face. So the face that we have here is totally fine. It's just that there's a lot of fat in the cheeks, a lot of jowl, very strong jaw. Not what we're going for. So I'm just going to mask out this portion, lower my subdivision level, blur it, and use move to move that in a little bit. You'll have to come in with the move brush and define the width of the chin. That's another important difference between male and female. Obviously, males are going to have a bigger, wider chin, or can, and females are going to have a smaller, rounder chin. So in this case, we're going to just pull it up and we're going to round it slightly. Okay, go up our subdivisions and clean it up. You can see this is not clean. So to do that, we can simply relax it. And then we use trim dynamic and a little bit of smoothing to give us some clean transitions. All right, let's check a couple of measurements. That chin has gotten out of control. And that happens sometimes, so I am going to adjust that. Ever so slightly. All right, now it's time for us to come in and create our facial grid. So the facial grid is what we already did with the photo reference. We just need to draw directly on the model with poly painting and get these units of measurement all set in stone.